The number one thing that people die of, no matter what form of diabetes they're living with, is heart disease. So just focusing on controlling numbers isn't really going to solve the problem, or one of the biggest problems for type 1 diabetes.
Remember Robbie? He's the youngest of 3 boys, and his older brother was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So when Robbie noticed the same symptoms, he guessed he had it too. After learning how to give himself insulin and count carbs, he wanted more, so he embarked on a hunt for the best nutrition for diabetes. His goal? To get his pancreatic beta cells to work again. Watch.
What happened is I started following a lot of different diets. Initially, I had followed the Weston A. Price Foundation diet. I was eating grass-fed beef, lots of raw milk, and this all made sense initially. You know, grass-fed beef is better than the processed beef. You know, there was logic behind maybe it's not good to pasteurize our milk. It all just made sense. But I never really got the results I was looking for in regards to seeing improvements in insulin sensitivity. So eventually, I then followed a vegan ketogenic diet where I was eating nothing but oil and greens and nuts and seeds. And eventually, I got terribly low energy. I could not sustain that diet any longer. Even though, as a person living with type 1 diabetes, I saw that not eating any carbohydrates led to a reduction in the total amount of insulin I needed. So at the time, I thought this was great. Wow, I'm taking less and less insulin. But that wasn't, in hindsight, that didn't mean anything unless my pancreas was beginning to produce more of its own insulin. So what I was doing is I was doing a little bit of a hack, which is why there's so much confusion in the world of diabetes nutrition. People who do a ketogenic diet, especially with people living with type 1, they can take a very, very low amount of insulin, but it doesn't mean they're healthier. They're actually more insulin resistant. And that's what I learned. So at that time, I was eating roughly 30 grams of carbohydrate per day, taking 10 units of total insulin. So that's a 3-to-1 ratio. And now, as I've transitioned to a low-fat, plant-based, whole food lifestyle, I'm eating more than 700 grams of carbohydrate per day and taking roughly 38 units of insulin. So that's more insulin, but the insulin sensitivity has dramatically improved. So my body's ability to take glucose out of my bloodstream into the cells has improved. It's very important for overall health. The number one thing that people die of, no matter what form of diabetes they're living with, is heart disease. So just focusing on controlling numbers isn't really going to solve the problem, or one of the biggest problems for type 1 diabetes.
And being active after meals may help us stop eating sooner too. More from today's expert guest after the break and the rest of Robbie's story, so stay with us. Robbie was trying lots of diets to optimize his new diagnosis of type 1 diabetes. He did a vegan, ketogenic, low-carb diet, eating clean with green veggies, nuts, seeds and oil. But his energy levels were so low he couldn't sustain it. Here's what happened next. Watch.
I heard a podcast with Dr. Doug Graham. In this podcast, he talked about healing and the concept of natural hygiene, and he talked about eating fruit. And this got me very excited because I had been limiting fruit for a long time now. And I decided I'm going to jump in and I'm going to try this. So I started to eat fruit. This was before his book came out. So he was on the podcast talking about his book that was coming out soon. So I start adding fruit and I start feeling amazing. And I start seeing that I'm getting low blood glucose readings, meaning that I'm injecting too much insulin for the food that I'm eating. So you would predict, just like what I predicted, if I'm going to eat more fruit, I'm going to need a lot more insulin. And I did that, but then I kept on going low and had to reduce the insulin. So Dr. Graham has sold me on this idea of trying to eat a fruit-based diet, literally nothing but fruits and vegetables. And that's what I have now done for 11 years. So I start doing that, eat nothing but fruits and vegetables. In the beginning, the first week, I signed up for a program with Dr. Graham. It was 1 month of coaching. We ended up doing it for 3 months. I would email him every day, and he emailed me back every day, and we would talk about what I was eating and what was happening with my blood glucose. The first week, I ate nothing but bananas. The second week, I ate nothing but bananas and lettuce. And then I started adding mono meals of fruit after that. And I was mind blown. I couldn't believe how I'm getting to eat all the bananas I want and my insulin sensitivity continues to improve. I feel amazing, and people would think that if you're eating a bunch of fruit, it would be difficult to control your blood glucose. But that's not the case because I eat whole fruit, which includes the fiber, the water content, and the nutrients. And that makes it very easy to manage blood glucose. My numbers are predictable. My A1C right now is 5.7%, very healthy range for somebody living with type 1 diabetes, and I'm in complete control of my diabetes health. I have boundless energy. I play sports. I am active with my friends. I go to the gym almost every day. Nothing is holding me back. If someone was in my position, I would suggest they get educated. That's the first step to making lifestyle change, is once you have the information and you have the confidence of why you're doing this, it becomes a heck of a lot easier. You become much more motivated. You see the results because you know what's happening behind the scenes.